Okay, guys, so what I'm gonna talk about today is going to be about the kid. Well, I'm gonna call him Dan. And this kid is in Miss Lucille's class. So he's a third grader. And Dan has trouble focusing. He isn't good at writing anything down, and he makes weird faces. He doesn't really sit in his chair. He turns around to the kid next to him, which is Clue. And Clue gets really angry because Clue is like a teacher's pet. He likes being really smart, which makes me wonder, why is Dan even next to him in class? Because the desks are in rows, like typical classroom rows. And Dan just turns around and he does that weird thing, looks like a rat, and like makes silly faces like that, makes noises, turns around to other kids, and then the kid Clue would be like, "Stop that, be quiet, help me out," because that's what the teacher says, "Help me out, Dan." And then the kids in the back of him be like, "Stop." And then the other girl on the side corner is like, "Stop." And then another boy who's also like a teacher's pet named, let's call him L, he'd be like, "Stop." And so all the kids just be shouting at him. And then even the teacher is like, "Stop acting like this." And so he did end up going to the back of the class. He got sent to the back of the class this week, and then he ended up having to stand up to go to lunch, and he just sat on the floor and he's like, "I'm tired. My legs are tired. I can't walk because I was standing up in the back of the class." And I started laughing because I'm like, "Bruh, you really saying your legs are broken?" I thought it was funny. But back to it, on Friday, I tried to help him with his work before lunch. So this was during reading. And when I was like coaching him through the each problem, he actually was filling it out and like using his brain to do it, and he understood the problem very well. But it's like when he's alone trying to look at a paper, he can't do it. But then like this whole weeks that I've been working with him, I would try to help him and he never picks up a pencil. But today actually changed, like Friday actually changed, where he wanted to work, and that was new. But then with other things that aren't fill in the blank, like writing sentences, he is gonna freeze up. So yeah, and then I he ended up getting sent out of class during math, and I stayed with them for like 30 minutes just because, I wanted to get to know him, and I also was wondering like what's going on with him. And one, he likes being a weird nerdy kid. The school has the intercom system, and he looked at it in the front office and he was like, "This was made in 1940s. This looks old." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So he does notice things like that. He noticed the dates and the years, and he said he wanted to be born in the 90s so he can make comic books in the 90s. And I thought that was interesting. He knew history, like that people used to write with pens instead of pencils, and the pens were like a feather with ink on it. And I'm like, huh, this kid is actually interested in stuff, like making things. He even said he wanted to make his own shoe made out of only rubber. And he's like, "What would be a good color for the shoe I'm gonna make?" So he's very creative minded, but again, in class, he just freezes up and he acts like a class clown. And he said, "I'm not exactly a class clown, but that's what teachers call him, a class clown." And so, yeah, he doesn't focus. He never does any work. He acts like he freezes up. And I asked him why, and he said the work is too hard for him. And I'm like, "But I do help you to know the answer. Of course, I'm not in his class all the time to help him because sometimes the teacher is just lecturing. So I'm just walking around making sure kids pay attention to the lecture, but still, when there's work, the teacher puts them in a group at her small table, but sometimes she doesn't because she rotates out groups. So I do try to help him, but yeah, he does say the work is hard, but it really isn't because he is smart. So he just freezes up. And so I wait for like the vice principal to talk to him, and it turns out she teaches a fifth grade class, and the principal teaches a fifth grade class too. And so when she came out of the class with her laptop, she sat at her desk and I gave her the paper that showed like his discipline log, what he's been doing in class. And the vice principal was just like, yeah, you're gonna get a referral and you need to apologize to Miss Me, me, and then you need to apologize to your teacher. And he turned around, he was like, sorry. And then that was the talk. It was literally like a 2 minute talk. And so I took him back to his class and I asked him, hey, do you know what a referral is? And I just told him it's just like a document that stays with you forever and it's on your permanent record, because that's what I think a referral is. I honestly don't know what it does, but I think it just helps kids get like one step closer to being suspended. I think it helps kids to like not go to certain schools because they're like, oh, these are the problem behaviors the student has had. So that's it. And I did ask him, like, does it make him feel bad when everyone in his class is yelling at him? And he said yes, which I kind of was like, yeah, this shouldn't make you feel bad. But anyway, that was that. The next third grade student was Mr. Lonnie. And Lonnie was just getting into fights, so he was supposed to be in a small group, and then the kids work by themselves on their own work, but then they also can help each other. And his group just kept being loud and arguing, and then I realized like they keep arguing with him, and they're just like, he needs to get out of here, no one wants him around. And he was, I guess, being bossy. And then you got the teacher's pet there, who's pretty smart. And yeah, he was really angry, starting fights with Mr. Lon Lon. I was gonna say Dr. Lonnie, but yeah, Lonnie. And so I just was like, Lonnie, you can sit by yourself because you don't have to be around them. Like, they keep arguing with you. And it did make it quieter, but then there was one student who was always spaced out. And Riri, this boy, let's call him Rico, he's always spaced out and he doesn't pay attention that well. So I wasn't surprised to know that he got his desk flipped over. So that just means that she turned it around, his teacher turned it around so that he won't take things out of his desk. But he's the type of student, he will still find something to get into, because he would like pour water in his desk because he was bored, and then he also would get glue poured in his desk and then just like spin it around with his pencil like a little soup of glue. And he would do things like that, take out erasers, start breaking the erasers apart, just because he isn't good at focusing, or maybe doing something with his hands, fidgeting, can help him focus. Students learn in different ways, so I do not think turning the desk around is a good thing for him. I think kids like that should just have a fidget toy and see if that works, or be not forced, but asked to stand up in class, see if maybe taking a jumping jack break or some type of exercise break will help them. allow them to walk around the class, stretch. I don't know. But I do see that could help. And so that was the behaviors of Miss Lucille's third grade class. So now we're going to go to Miss Treehart. Let's call her Miss Treehart. And this is the class I had to stay in because Miss Lucille was testing. So for 2 days out of this week, third grade was testing. And the test was supposed to be, let's say, 8 a.m. But she started at like 9:30 a.m. So her testing went on way longer than it should have. So I spent a lot of my time in Miss Treehart's class. And that could have been like a Tuesday or Monday. So I was in her class and Miss Treehart was getting tired of me. And I know because she would come up to me and be like, you shouldn't be talking to the students this way. You're helping them too much and you need to tell them to raise their hand. And then she took me to the side and told me this. And then she took me to the side and she was like, you're laughing with the kids too much. This is unprofessional. And that made me pretty upset. So that was on Wednesday, I think. And then she took me out of the class. But before that happened, the principal came into the class. And that was, let's say, Thursday. And she told me that I need to help the teacher, Miss Treehart, to manage her class behaviors, even though all the students were a problem and wouldn't stop talking because they're like apparently ESC kids and they also struggle paying attention, but they also have like bad behaviors from home. I don't even know if Miss Treehart even contacts their parents because like all of their parents need to be called except for like 3 people. So then on Friday, I was removed from the class at the end of the day because I was really mad at this girl because she was trying to start a fight with a boy, and I told her, don't start fights. We are not playing fight. And then I told her, you need to leave the class.